What a headshot! What a head!
How's it guys, this is Dayvy, FPL, and welcome back to the Fantasy Premier League video here on my channel. Now in this video, I'll be taking you through my transfer plan for the upcoming Game Week 4. So the international break is upon us, the first one of the season, and therefore a reminder, the deadline is not in a week, it's in 2 weeks. And obviously a lot can happen over this international break. So to start off this video, I'll be giving you guys a quick introduction into how Game Week 3 went, how many points we scored, and how the players performed, before turning our attention to Game Week 4 and the transfer plan with 2 free transfers. So some big changes are on the horizon for my FPL team, and if you guys are interested to see what they are, sit back, relax, and let's get straight into it. So going over a quick review of how Game Week 3 progressed, as you guys can see on the right hand side, 79 points scored, so a pretty respectable game week. Now you guys will notice no overall rank yet again. As mentioned throughout the season, the overall rank doesn't matter at this stage of the season, as the ranks are super volatile over the opening few game weeks. So you guys would have seen this if you had a good week or a bad week, the rank change was pretty significant. For example, myself, I had about a 50% green arrow. So let me know how your game week went in terms of overall points. Did you guys score more than me, less than me? Did you have both Salah and Haaland? Then you'll be absolutely smiling, as those two absolutely banged it in Game Week 3. In terms of the transfer plan for the upcoming game week, as you guys can see, 2 free transfers and 1.5 in the bank, so we can make an upgrade if we want to. Let's get on to where those 79 points came from. On the bench, we had a pretty dismal bench performance. Bentley didn't start, as well as Ben Johnson, which is a worry as one of my 4.0 defenders. Otherwise, Harry Winks with 1 point and Harwood Bellis with 0 points, but both those players did start the fixture. So the bench this week looks pretty terrible once again. All these players, I hope every week don't come off, as how many points can actually be expected of them. Now starting goalkeeper with Henderson. Luckily this week, I mentioned this, I wasn't very fond of the clean sheet odds, but I did hope for some save threat, and that's exactly what happened with 6 saves. So Henderson, one of the best 4.5 performers, we can finally say that, with a massive 4 points in a game week with only 1 clean sheet. Now that clean sheet actually happened to one of our defenders. It's Liverpool and Trent Alexander-Arnold. Now if you guys watched this United game, you'll know what happened in the first half. Trent scored a goal, but it was ruled offside for a Salah offside. Very unlucky, and I celebrated that goal a bit too much. Trent has been such a tease over these opening few game weeks, creating those big chances, but unfortunately no attacking returns. But his third 6-pointer in a row does make him good value for money. As mentioned, the only team in the game week to keep a clean sheet, and the Liverpool defense just gets better and better. Now next up, a defense usually pretty solid, it's Gabriel and Arsenal, and if you know what happened in this game, they went down to 10 men and therefore conceded. I want to see what would have happened if Declan Rice didn't get a red card. Pretty confident that Arsenal would have kept the clean sheet, but once again something that we can't predict in terms of discipline. Was a little bit disappointed here because even though the Arsenal defense is quite highly owned, amongst the kind of FPL template it's not too highly owned, and therefore was reliant on some Gabriel points. Was, I guess, a little bit of a tougher fixture, but as mentioned, with 11 men, I'm pretty confident of a clean sheet, as Brighton weren't too attacking in the first half. Then lastly, the player we don't own for the clean sheets, we own him for the attacking returns, Pedro Porro. Had a few chances, but ultimately was a 1-pointer. I did have Isaac against him, so I kind of just hope one of them would end up hauling, and at least Isaac ended up scoring. Once again, the Spurs defense can't be counted on for clean sheets, and therefore Pedro Porro might be a transfer out with some tougher fixtures on the horizon. Now compared to last week where we had 6 pointers from everyone, this week was a little bit disappointing, but as mentioned, only 1 clean sheet out of all the teams. Now midfield department did have some better performers, Saka once again carrying with his 1 assist. He should have had a few more returns though, and then obviously went down to 10 men. So Saka vs Salah is becoming a little bit of a redundant debate. The Egyptian is absolutely smoking him, and seems like the best strategy was to go for both the 2 premiums. Saka is however putting up some good stats, some good performances, and he has been pretty consistent this FPL season. So no real complaints about Saka per se, but just the fact that him vs Salah was a major debate. Yes, Salah is more expensive, but I would have paid that extra 2.5 for all those points. I will talk about the Saka to Salah upgrade though in my transfer plan, as that seems like it might be quite popular for Game Week 4. Then finally the patience paid off with Eze, a massive 10-pointer against Chelsea, wrapping up all the bonus points. So he said this, we're going to give him 1 more game week, he has some good fixtures on the horizon anyways, let's see what he can do, and luckily a very well taken goal. Just shows what he can do when he does get a goal. 3 bonus points is absolutely massive. Is somewhat differential, I know his ownership is pretty high, but I still would consider it to be some differential points, which is much needed after the opening 2 game weeks. Then our new transfer in, Rodgers, he came in for Nkunku. At least he outperformed Nkunku, but was hoping for more in this pretty easy fixture. So he did create a big chance that Ollie Watkins ended up missing, so he was kind of a little bit creative, and might have been slightly unlucky not to get an attacking return. Another big talking point though was the fact that Leon Bailey came off with a hamstring injury in the opening first half of the fixture. So just out of that kind of injury, Rodgers should be more nailed and therefore get more expected minutes, and at his cheaper price point, a blank every so often isn't the worst. But as mentioned, great fixture, was expecting a little bit more. Another template transfer in that hasn't ended up performing in the first game week. Then kind of speaking about not performing, unfortunately Diego Jota ended up blanking, even though Liverpool scored 3 goals. So just wish that Jota maybe got a few more chances. He had an almost big chance in the second half that unfortunately he couldn't convert, and the points are pretty much hogged by Salah as well as Diaz. So in that front 3, I chose the attacker that didn't get the points, but he still looks pretty nailed to start at centre forward in the upcoming fixtures. Now front line, you guys know all about Erling Haaland. A massive 17-pointer was matched, however, with Salah. It's a very different atmosphere from Saturday to Sunday. But back-to-back hatties, as mentioned in the Dayline stream, we spoke about could he make it back-to-back hat-tricks and therefore be a triple Kamsi option. I guess another opportunity missed in this game week. But nothing much more to say about Erling Haaland, just a ridiculous FPL asset, and him and Salah complementing each other massively in those drafts. So this goes to show that you guys don't necessarily have to have a Haaland in your team, but how long will Salah cover him in that midfield department? Then we spoke about the patience with Eze, we had the patience with Isaac once again, and he racked up 9 points. So a late goal in that Spurs fixture and taking home all the bonus points, a nice little 9-pointer return. Just goes to show that some of these more premium options do end up returning if you give them time, but time might be up with Muniz as he blanked yet again. So I don't really know what to say. He came out of Leicester and Ipswich with 2 points in both fixtures, and he did have a few chances. But for me, it just seems like he might be off the boil a bit, definitely a transfer out. Just super disappointed that those 2 fixtures he didn't end up performing. To make matters worse, Chris Wood, his nearest rival in terms of price, scored yet again. Just seems like Muniz can't finish. So for me, the Jota and Muniz blanks were quite disappointing. These 2 options are slightly more differential to the template, and therefore was hoping for more from them. But 79 points is pretty decent, a nice little green arrow. Let me know how your game week went in the comments down below. Now before we get onto the actual transfer plan, I want to show you guys my current team selection and what I'm dealing with. Just a reminder, 2 free transfers and 1.5 in the bank. What you guys can do is, as I go through my team, you can maybe plan if this was your own team and recommend the transfers that you guys can see. Now the bench once again is going to be pretty dismal. We've got Bentley, Winks, Harwood, Bellis, and finally Johnson, and the fixtures aren't looking too great either. So fingers crossed our starting 11 does feature, starting off with Henderson against Leicester at home. Great fixture on the cards here. So I am quite happy that Crystal Palace have ended up signing a few new centre backs. That should hopefully shore up that Crystal Palace defence slightly and prove that Henderson's a great FPL asset. So pretty comfortable owning Henderson for this game week, great fixture. Hopefully he can get us some points. Then our backline, Trent has the best fixture definitely. Nottingham Forest at home, hopefully some attacking returns can come about. But Forest have actually impressed me on both sides of the field over the opening few game weeks. So it might be a little bit of a tougher game, but definitely at home, you gotta favour Liverpool. And as mentioned, defensive and attacking threat always come from Trent. Then Gabriel and Pedro Porro do play against each other. You probably back Gabriel more from a defensive point of view, but Porro from the attacking side. Now we'll be talking about a potential defensive upgrade or downgrade because these 2 players playing each other isn't optimal. And I don't really know what to call this one. This might be an Arsenal clean sheet, but I can definitely see Arsenal scoring and Porro losing their clean sheet. So out of these 2 assets, who would you rather start? Would you rather play Porro for the attacking threat or Gabriel for the defensive threat? Just remember, Declan Rice will be suspended for this one. The midfield department also looks pretty good. We've got Saka against Spurs, no complaints there. Spurs are pretty open. And I expect Saka to do quite well and continue this consistent form. Then Eze against Leicester, great fixture. This is the reason we hold him. Hopefully he can replicate what he did against Chelsea. Rodgers against Everton, just conceded 3 in kind of stoppage time to Bournemouth. Rodgers should be still nailed, so hopefully the attacking returns finally come. Then with Jota, I'm pretty confident that he will start at centre forward. Jota plays his last kind of international game on Sunday with Portugal as far as I know, and therefore I'm pretty confident about a start against Nottingham Forest. Like, I know the only player here that's missing is Salah. Can Jota cover Salah? Definitely not, but he might have to try for one more game week. Then up front, no complaints about our Cam C. It's against Brentford. Pretty confident Man City scorer Erling Haaland does well. Can he make it back-to-back Haddies? Then Isaac with a Wolves fixture that should be targeted, that Wolves defense isn't that great. And finally Muniz against West Ham, who no matter who he plays, I'm pretty sure that he's in a blank. So with 2 free transfers and 1.5 in the bank, what upgrades would you guys make if this was your team? But now let's head on to the transfer plan for the upcoming game week, and for me, this comes down to one transfer either this week or next week. Now that transfer is going to be for the main man, Mo Salah from Liverpool. If you guys just check his points over the opening game weeks, simply ridiculous. And even though you don't captain him, he's still proving good value for money at the moment. Now the reason that you guys want to go for Mo Salah is those back-to-back home games, Nottingham Forest and then Bournemouth. Now for me, the upgrade that makes the most sense is going to be Saka out for Mo Salah, as he has Spurs and Man City in the next 2. Now the biggest thing to note is going to be the Man City fixture in game week 5, as the inverse of that, Erling Haaland will therefore host Arsenal at home. So would you guys rather captain Mo Salah against Bournemouth at home or Haaland against Arsenal at home? There's pretty much one kind of definite answer there. So that's why Salah might be essential for game week 5, and that's I'm preparing a plan to get him in. Now as mentioned, this could be this week or it could be next week. It kind of just depends on which players I downgrade. Now the reason I have to downgrade another option is the price difference between Saka and Salah. Right now I've got 1.5 in the bank, and the difference between Salah at buying price and Saka at selling price is 1.6 million. So somewhere else I've got to find 1.1 million, and that could be by downgrading a big option or doing 2 smaller downgrades. So one thing that I've been contemplating in my mind is, should I actually get Salah in for a -4 this week? Over the next 2 with the captaincy, I'm pretty confident he outperforms Saka. But if I don't bring him in this week, high chance I bring him in next week, unless I choose to go without him, which might be quite risky. Now if you guys don't own Salah, what are you doing? Are you bringing him in this week, next week, or just forgetting about him? But I think if I don't go without him in game week 5, I might not watch any football for that weekend. Now if I was to facilitate this move, I spoke about kind of going for a bigger downgrade or 2 smaller downgrades. Let's go over those options. And the first player I want to look at is going to be João Pedro, a player that actually rose in price last night and therefore comes in at 5.7 million. And you kind of want to go for him for those next 2 fixtures. So João Pedro has back-to-back home games, Ipswich coming up and then Nottingham Forest. 2 very nice fixtures on paper. Now you guys can go for Danny Welbeck if you want to, but I prefer João Pedro in terms of expected minutes. The only hindrance after that is he has Chelsea, Spurs, Newcastle, but they haven't been great defensively. So I didn't confirm this transfer last night, I actually haven't done it. I'm willing to risk the price rise for more information. As mentioned, the international break can have some injuries. So if I was to do a straight swap and a massive downgrade, I could go for Isaac out for João Pedro, but Isaac does have Wolves and Fulham away in the next 2. So both those 2 games in my opinion are pretty decent, and the reason I'm leaning to keeping Isaac is I do own Muniz in my forward department. So I won't lie to you, I've kind of lost a bit of faith in Muniz at 6.1 million, so it might be a slight downgrade, but might be a necessary one. He does have back-to-back home games though, West Ham and Newcastle, but after blanking against Leicester and Ipswich, can he even score against them? Will be absolute peak FPL if he gets a brace against both of them after blanking against 2 newly promoted sides, but I'm willing to take the punt on João Pedro instead of him. So this is where those 2 kind of smaller downgrades or 1 big upgrade comes into account. I want to wait and see because Isaac is going to play in the internationals. If he gets injured, I can get Mo Salah this game week, but if not, Muniz might be one of those smaller downgrades this week. Now going on to the next kind of downgrade, bigger or smaller, is going to be Gabriel out, but what I could always go for is an upgrade of a Ben Johnson or Pedro Porro out. The reason I've gone for Gabriel is he's the most expensive defender that I'm willing to take out after Trent, and therefore will free up a lot of funds. So I literally can get that 1.1 million straight from Gabriel, to be honest. If you do the maths right, I can get 4.9 million this game week, and then upgrade Saka to Salah. Now the reason you might want to take the Arsenal defense out is they do have Spurs and Man City back to back, but then after that, you might want to get back on them as they have Leicester, Southampton and Bournemouth. So quite a hard kind of downgrade, but I guess if you wildcard in game week 6 anyways, you can bring them back in on a wildcard, and then take Gabriel out this week and free up the funds. Now the 2 replacements at the moment are pretty boring. The first one is me Dunk from Brighton. Now if we do get news of who's going to be playing potential fullback for them, I might go for that option, as I would prefer some attacking threat versus Dunk's kind of expected minutes. Now unlike João Pedro, I do actually mind Dunk against Chelsea, Spurs and Newcastle, as I can't see them keeping clean sheets in those 3 fixtures. So what I might have to do is, even though the next 2 are strong, I might have to go for another defender in game week 6, which therefore would require another transfer. That's why the next option, Konza, might be slightly more attractive. Everton, Wolves and Ipswich in the next 3. I could play him for all those 3 fixtures. Now like with Gabriel, if I do wildcard in Game Week 6, I can just get Dunk anyways, take him out on the wildcard and have him for the next 2 fixtures. But Konza allows me to be a bit more flexible. So the most annoying thing about Villa is we can't really predict who's going to start at fullback currently, and that's why Konza might be slightly more boring, but is more sensible. Now as mentioned, this would give me enough funds to actually do the Saka to Salah move in 2 transfers, but I'm liking the look of João Pedro over the next 2 instead of a Muniz. So I could actually do all 3 transfers from -4 if I wanted to go there, and if I think Salah outperforms Saka with 4 points over the next few fixtures. So in this transfer plan, I've gone over a few options, but they're all centrally involved in that Salah to Saka move, and very dependent on if Isaac is going to stay or if I take out Muniz. Could actually just keep both those 2 forwards and do a defensive downgrade, but then I have to be Gabriel out instead of Pedro Porro. I guess another transfer I could do is ignore Salah for the foreseeable future. I can do Ben Johnson to a Konza instead and a Muniz to a João Pedro, but then I can't do Saka to Salah in Game Week 5. Now I just want to go back to the Saka to Salah transfer because I want to speak about something in terms of the wildcard. Let's say I don't wildcard in Game Week 6 and therefore have to make a plan to get some Arsenal coverage, because you definitely want some against Leicester, Southampton and Bournemouth. At the same time, Salah does have Wolves, which is a great fixture, so currently looking at an Isaac to a Havertz in Game Week 6. That's something to just ponder. If you are taking Saka to Salah, you might want to do Salah to Saka in Game Week 6, so is it worth doing 2 transfers to facilitate this move? Added to that, Saka might score against Spurs and do pretty well. I do believe though he blanks against Man City, and if you are going to captain Salah, that might be worth it just in terms of 1 game week. But it's something to ponder if you guys aren't going to wildcard in Game Week 6. If you are though, very easy kind of transfer to make. I think Salah definitely outperforms Saka over the next 2, especially if he keeps up this consistent form of double-digit returns. So that's kind of my transfer plan, but in the comments down below, what's your transfer plan? As mentioned, I've done no transfers as of yet. I'm waiting for more news, and I'd probably suggest doing so as well. But this is basically going to wrap up the video, guys. Hope you guys did enjoy it. Please don't forget to like if you didn't subscribe if you have subscribed yet. More content coming up this midweek, so make sure those notifications are turned on. But for the time being, I'm signing off. It's been Dayvy FPL, and I'm out. Cheers, bye.